So my name is Kyle Hutchison, and I'm joined by my colleague Andrew Steele. For today's group demo, it's really a chance for everyone on the line to ask questions, any questions that you might have around the Tray product. We're going to go through some slides to show you a little bit about the background of the space, as well as go through a demo, and we can answer your questions in the product. There's a QA box at the bottom of the screen, so feel free to type in your questions there throughout the whole presentation. And if at any time you feel like you've seen enough, you want to be contacted by sales, feel free to click the raise hand button on the Zoom area. And it's a quick way to get contacted as well following the demo. So just a quick little agenda. I'm going to go through a couple slides, give you a little background on the space, as well as how Tray fits in. And then we're going to go through a specific demo. Today, we're going to cover some sales and sales operations use cases. So just a little background on the space that we're in. It has multiple different names, and ever since software's been around, there's been a need to connect different platforms. So it's been called iPaaS, middleware, integrations, automations, kind of you name it. And where we really find ourselves today is building more of a general automation platform. But just to look at a little bit of the history, if you think back to the 90s, kind of companies like IBM, TIBCO, and Informatica were connecting back-end on-prem systems. And these were big engineering projects. You need teams of engineers and very specialized engineers to kind of disrupt that space. In the early thousands, you have companies like MuleSoft and Apogee, where it was kind of a combo of on-prem and cloud. So clearly bringing kind of a new take to the market. But again, this is still pretty heavy duty coding. You need specialized engineers, pretty long timelines. If you really think about where the market's going in the last 10 years, there's just been a proliferation of specialization across the industry. So in an HR vertical or marketing vertical, you have hundreds of different software platforms. And then within a single company, so Kleiner Perkins, they do the Internet Trends, the Mary Meeker presentation every year, where they look across the whole web and see what's going on. And one thing, this is from 2017, so I imagine it's only gone up. But HR and marketing at companies, 200-300 person companies are using 90 to 91 software platforms just within those departments. If you think about how there's this need to be able to connect these different software platforms, you would like to not be required of teams of engineers to get the job done, rather more of a technical business user who can connect the different systems and you can move forward with your strategy. Also, if you look at some of these departments, their strategies are going to change kind of week over week. It's not going to be a 3-quarter project. You want to have the flexibility to move much quicker. And so that's where Tray comes in. We're a flexible and powerful system, but we're also just as scalable as those back-end platforms. And kind of all across the board, when you're dealing with different customer data, you need to be trusted. So we've gone through very specific security measures. We're SOC 2 Type 2, GDPR, HIPAA, kind of you name it. Our platform is very secure, but it doesn't take away from the ability to really scale on our platform. And then, as you'll see in the demo, just the ease of use, the drag and drop interface. You don't have to know how to code, but it certainly helps. And so this is kind of where we're positioning ourselves. It's like in the middle of all your different business tools. So you'll see notification tools like your G Suite and Slack, your project management tools that could be used across marketing and backend engineering, your marketing platforms like AdRoll and Marketo, then connecting to your central databases, whether it be Salesforce or your Redshift database, connecting your behavior data from Segment, from your different apps, enriching this data with tools like Clearbit, and then engaging your sales prospects with tools like Outreach or SalesLoft. So combining all these into strategies for how you will go, execute upon, and it gives you much more breadth to kind of move quickly. And the previous slide, you can see all these different logos. We have connectors built inside our platform, but if we don't have those connectors, we have multiple different ways to connect to different platforms. So we can leverage 2 of our universal connectors via a webhook or the HTTP client. And then you can upload CSV files. So today we're actually going to focus on how you upload a CSV. This might be something, a sales manager or marketing manager comes to a sales operations professional with. It's like, I need this inside the CRM. I need it done tomorrow. So being able to move quickly and execute on strategies is definitely part of the job. But for like a sales operations professional, it can be a pretty frustrating thing when, if anyone knows anyone in sales ops, they always have a laundry list of things to do. So a platform like Tray, we're going to focus on sales ops today, but you can really use it across multiple different departments, whether it be marketing, your lead ingestion, or personalized email, or just automate the entire email process, all the way to support, where you have your post-sales processes, different onboarding of clients, connecting different platforms like your intercom to your backend ticketing system, as well as just kind of across the board, multiple departments. And the flexibility, power, and scale of our platform has attracted companies that are Fortune 500, like Arrow Electronics, SAP, and IBM, but also some of your fastest growing companies, your unicorns, whether they be like Segment, Intercom, or Lyft. And again, just across multiple different departments in the company. We're not siloed for any specific thing. So for today, as I kind of mentioned before, we're going to focus specifically on account routing. And so think of this as someone like a sales manager like myself would come over to sales operations. And I found a really cool list. Forrester published a list, or TechCrunch on rising companies, rising tech stars. And it's like, these are our perfect companies. I want them in Salesforce and assigned to the appropriate reps as soon as you possibly can. And sales ops doesn't have the most time in the world, so it's having a process like already built with Tray, where they can ingest these CSV files, whether it be for your sales department, your marketing department. It's a tool that they can use over and over again. So we're going to kind of show what that looks like. And just at a really high level, we're going to take something from a G sheet, so a CSV, work with some of the Tray logic, get these into Salesforce. And then once they're in Salesforce, do some additional logic to make sure if it's a customer already or not, as well as if it's new, create new leads. And then once in Salesforce, make sure that the sales reps are notified as quickly as possible, or anyone in the company is notified. But that's enough for slides. Let's see how it works. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and hand it over to Andrew.
Thanks, Kyle. So as Kyle just mentioned, our use case today that we're covering during this demonstration is ingesting a list of leads into our CRM platform. First, we're gonna, from a Tray perspective, I'm gonna go over a pretty simple workflow where we just wanna get those leads into the system. And then I'll show you a more advanced iteration that includes a data enrichment service called Clearbit, where now that we have that lead, we can enrich some of that data with more information, such as revenue, company size, industry, so that we can power up our sales team with the most up-to-date information immediately. And then we can also send customized alerts. And as we're building out that second, more advanced workflow, I think it'll be very clear how flexible the Tray platform is in implementing additional business logic. So here on the screen, I have an article from TechCrunch, APIs are the next big SaaS wave. And as I'm reading through it, I noticed this diagram here of rising stars in tech. And so as an API company, it'd probably be a good idea for us to start reaching out to these companies. And then we're also featured here at the bottom, quick shout out. So created this quick spreadsheet of this data here in this diagram of company name, website, description. So now that I have this information, I want this to get ingested by our CRM, in this case, Salesforce. So if I look in my demo environment in Salesforce, I just refresh the page, new accounts this week, you can see I have nothing in my system. And this is where Tray really comes into play. So I have this pretty simple workflow here where this is within our builder. So this is a live workflow that I'm gonna actually run. And you can see it's very intuitive what this workflow is actually doing. The trigger here, the whatever is the discrete event that activates a particular workflow is manual. So the workflow runs on an ad hoc basis based on this button here. And you can see that it's very intuitive what's going on. We're first getting all the sheet data from this particular spreadsheet here. And once we have all that data, we're looping through each of the rows, and then we're creating a Salesforce account with each of that data. And if I click here into the Salesforce step, you can see that I'm creating or updating a record of the account type, and then I'm specifying that the account name is equal to the value from this loop step here, which is getting pulled in from this Google sheet. So if I go ahead and just run this workflow here, so I activated it, it's actively running right now, and I should start to see accounts popping up in my Salesforce instance. But I can actually go to the debug log here and see that, and actually just run this one more time. I can see a debug log of the actual workflow running. And so I can go ahead and click into this, and I can see that actively this workflow is running and pulling in data, so I can verify what is actually going on. So I see that this data was retrieved from Google Sheets. And if I go into my Salesforce instance and I refresh the page here, I should start to see accounts trickling in from this Google Sheet. So if I see an Airtable account was just created and nothing's really filled out except, again, that name and that domain, which is from this spreadsheet here. Now we can do a lot better because although this is helpful for our sales team, we can give them a lot more information here. As you can see, there are a lot more fields that we can fill out. However, this workflow is not handling that. So if I go to our more advanced workflow here, same format, except we have several other connector steps used here. So again, I'm using a manual trigger so I can run this on demand. I'm getting all of the sheet rows. I'm looping through each of those rows in the sheet. And instead of just creating an account immediately in Salesforce, I'm getting enrichment data based off of the domain listed. So if I look here at the schema output, you can see that Clearbit's giving me all this rich data on the account level. So different metrics like market cap, annual revenue, amount raised, employees, and that all sounds very useful to put inside of our account object. And so that's this step. It's once again creating or updating the account. And then I also added this other Clearbit feature, which is find prospects. So if we have an account we want to prospect out to, we also need people that our SDRs or our sales team can reach out to. And so Clearbit also has this cool feature where given a domain name, you can prospect different roles. So within our Clearbit step, you can see that I'm using the prospector API, and then I'm looking for domains for from this spreadsheet. So these different domains, and then I'm also trying to, I want the CEO. And if I click here, you can see that there are many different role types, but let's say right now I'm just interested in the CEO role. And then I'm actually going to create or update a contact and tie it to the account that we just created. So if I go ahead and run this again, and then if I go ahead and refresh my page here, you can see that all of a sudden I have a lot more fields for our sales team to work with. So employees, ownership, prospect type, industry, billing address, all of these really useful fields. And then also I have a contact tied to this account too. So really makes the whole process of ingesting accounts, ingesting any type of spreadsheet or CSV file, not just efficient, but more powerful. So if I go back to this workflow, Kyle mentioned, so this is all good. What if you also want to build logic to alert your sales team? So we can start to build some of that logic within our current iteration, where I can use a Boolean condition where, let's say we want to alert our sales team if a particular new lead has a annual revenue above a certain threshold. So I can go ahead and add a Boolean condition where I want to check if this account has greater than X amount of revenue, then send a Slack message. So I can use our connector sake here to reference some of the data from earlier connector steps. And let's say I have this annual revenue field. I want to check if that is greater than or equal to $5 million. So let me just rename this step, revenue greater than 5 mil. And if that is indeed the case, then I want to send a Slack message. I can search the connector library for the Slack connector and then drag that over here. And then as you can see here, I can send a Slack message to, let's say, our sales team. So our enterprise sales team. And I can craft a custom message that is sent out to our enterprise sales reps. So yeah, I think that's, this is a really interesting use case that shows just how you can morph how you can morph our platform to perform different use cases, and how flexible it is where as your requirements change, as your business logic needs to shift, you can easily make adjustments within our workflow builder to reflect those changing requirements.
Perfect. And I love this use case too, because it's perfect for our group demo. It's kind of short and sweet, and it gives you a very clear depiction of what it looks like. But also, what we like to do when we're showing Tray to new people is run live data in a group setting like this, where you just don't see that. We have so much trust in our platform. We know it's going to work, and we're confident to run this live. But aside from that, this use case in particular, it's just a tip of an iceberg for what you can do on our platform. So it looks really simple, a CSV upload. We're enriching and finding more data with Clearbit, updating those records in Salesforce. But a tool like Tray gives a lot more power to operations teams like marketing or sales operations, because what you can do from a strategic standpoint now is drag over Outreach or SalesLoft into the same workflow. So at the bottom there, it's like, if we've identified this hits certain personas or certain categories, we can automatically put it into a sales sequence. So you still notify the sales rep, but you actually automatically get emails that are going out, and these can be written by marketing or written by sales development leaders who just have more experience. So you have a very organized approach to going after these new leads. Then the SDRs or the sales reps only follow up with the replies. So it's really automating your strategy, and it gives your marketing teams or different strategic teams more control of creating just a combined approach across the company, how you go after new prospects and leads. And we obviously do this internally. That's why I bring it up. But it just leads to some really good results. You can track your metrics, and when you're using systems like these, just imagine how your data is much more organized, and you can use a platform like Tray to capture all that data, consolidate it, and really track what's working or what's not working. Perfect. Well, that brings us to time. Thanks everyone for joining our group demo. Hopefully this was a valuable session. And for anyone who this is your first time joining, feel free to tune in every Thursday. We try to cover a different topic that might be applicable to a general audience and kind of cover different use cases. So feel free to tune in next week. And thanks everyone for joining today.